please welcome to the stage, Alix Earle. Hi, Alix.
Hey, Al. How are you doing, Big Al?
Good. I'm excited to be back at U Miami, back in the Watsco Center. Looks a little different right now.
Is it like, what's the feeling? Is it nostalgia? Do you miss it?
I always think of the first time. I think it's like freshman initiation. We come in here, they did a really big show, and you're like still meeting people. You don't really know your friends yet. And I just remember being so excited to go to U Miami and just holds a special place in my heart. Happy to be back on campus.
Did you have a favorite bar to go to?
Sandbar.
Oh! Are any of you going there tonight? Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm coming.
I am dying to know, and I think everyone is dying to know, what was it like creating content while also being a student? Like, what did that schedule look like?
I didn't really have a schedule, which was part of the problem, but I was always just, overposting, oversharing. Nothing really took off until my senior year of college, but I was always posting on there. I always loved it. I think even if I wasn't necessarily doing it for work or whatever it was, I just loved it as a creative outlet for myself, and I had always hoped and dreamed that it would get me somewhere someday.
Was there kind of some anxiety around walking around campus and being like, oh my God, did these other students see these really personal videos that I'm posting?
There was one time I made a video about this guy who was just a jerk to me or something, and I was walking around campus and I would see him and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just supposed to be for my friends online and not for everyone in my class to know about. But I feel like that has prepared me for just a lot of what I post now too. It's just basically oversharing and just being authentic and real online. And I think sometimes that comes with a little bit of an embarrassment or a hit to the ego. I'm like, great, everyone's seeing me crying online, sobbing about my ex right now. Right. It's real and it's happening. So I choose to share it.
God bless. I don't think I could do that. In college, people knew my business too much already if I was posting about it. So you took a lot of marketing courses while you were here. Do you remember any specific course or a certain thing you learned that you've seriously used to create what you have today?
Yeah, I took a social media marketing class, and we would talk a lot about analytics in the class, and I would always schedule one-offs with the professor to try and learn more, understand what was going on, because I was really interested in the data behind the posts. And it sounds silly, but what hashtags can get what reach, and it's something I had never really thought about before with my content. So I would say that class definitely changed a lot for me and just helped me. I think we had a project throughout the semester where we were creating some non-for-profit, and then it was how much can you grow this platform throughout the semester. So I just always loved that type of challenge for myself, and it was really interesting to learn, and took an Excel class at one point, which got me a little bit better at that.
Do you use Excel now?
I do.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot.
What are we using Excel for?
Well, for real actives, we use spreadsheets for everything.
Yeah.
But no, I've never done any type of content banking or blocking, unless if it's for a brand that has to get approved ahead of time. But I've always been pretty just in the moment with my content, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just a superstition, but I think then it does better.
I
the
agree.
Sooner you film it, post it, get it up, I just think the in real time adds something to it. So there's so many times I'll be I will say in Ubers on the way out, I'm always in the car editing. Everything, so I can get it up before I get to wherever I'm going. And yeah, there was never really any schedule, but I knew I would plan it out sort of the day before in my head a little bit. But a lot of the time, I think just because my brain thinks in content mode a lot of the time, I just come up with ideas on the spot. And I think that's honestly when I work best.
Was there anything else that you had that you needed, tripods, anything that if anyone wants to get into creation,
yeah,
what tools should they have?
Well, I would always embarrass myself in the thesis parking garage. I had this tripod, and I would go out there and I would bring outfit changes and get in the parking garage, and I had my good tripod, I had the Alix Earle light, and honestly, I think just the environment of being here was always just so great and led to so many fun opportunities and stories to talk about online. So I would say that played a big part in the content as well. But I also think when I was a freshman, I felt such an immense pressure to act like I knew what was going on and not be so confused at the schedule or where my classes or stuff. But I think that is so relatable and honest, and even like struggling to meet friends, or the awkward encounters of meeting friends, or you're in a class and you have to like ask someone for their number because you don't know what day the test is.
Right.
And those stories, I think, is something I would probably bring now, but I don't think I had the confidence at the time when I was a freshman to get online and speak candidly like that. So I would say that would be the content I would bring as a freshman.
So like what changed? Like I have to imagine there was like some sort of pressure because you're coming up, you're probably doing a lot of videos for fun. You're obviously hoping that something becomes of it. And then it gets real quick, real with an E. So what changed in your workflow?
I think it was like the summer going into my senior year. And like I said, I didn't really have necessarily as much confidence in myself at the time. And I was like feeling really insecure about my skin, and I was struggling with it really bad. And I wasn't posting online for a while. And like I said, posting made me very happy. So when I took a break, I was like, you know what, I just got to get back to it. And like, I can't really hide what's going on with my skin. So I started to post about my skin online, and that did so well, and I was so confused because I thought that's the opposite of what people would ever want to see online. And I think then I learned the importance of just being candid and authentic, and it led to me, you know, talking about going into my senior year, and I was doing a bunch of the get ready with me's and story times and living with a bunch of girls, and it was sort of like a snowball effect over the course of 4 months. I mean, I was like starting to apply for jobs after college, and then at the same time, I'm like calling my dad, and I'm like, wait, I think I can do social media as a job. And he's like, Alex, what are you talking about? Like, please put your phone down and go to class. So it was a really surreal time.
Is there like an instinct in you where you're like, nope, this is good to go, I can post right now? Or is there sometimes where you're like, I don't think I could post this anymore. Maybe when I was in college, I could talk about that guy, but today I'm not gonna.
Yeah, even like my breakup, I was just very scared then, because I felt like almost like a security blanket had been ripped away from me.
Yeah.
So I got like insecure, I think, for the first time of like posting or oversharing like I normally do. And then more so recently, I just was like, okay, you know what, we're just gonna rip the Band-Aid off because I cannot care what other people think about me. And I think that has been just a crucial part, and it's something you always need to remind yourself, because I think it's hard when you have a lot of like opinions and a lot of eyes on you to just like remain authentic and remain yourself. So yeah, but I try to keep the same candid vibe, and I always actually think like, would I have overthought this when I was in college? Like, no. So I try to look back to her.
Can that type of influence be taught? Like, or is it more just creating that authentic relationship with your followers and your audience of like, you guys can trust me?
I think it can be taught in the way that you have to show up and be authentically yourself, and I think it goes a lot to the connection that you have with your audience. Like I always say, I feel like, you know, everyone is like my best friends, and like we just know each other. And that was something that was, again, very surreal for me the first time I like posted this light in my room, and then it was like the prices of this light were going up, and I was like, what's going on right now? Yeah. And it's hard to comprehend, but it's been very crazy and very surreal.
If a student was about to sign their first brand deal, what is something you would tell them or wish that someone told you before you put that pen to paper and signed that contract?
Read the contract. I think when I was in college, I was like, woo, I'm getting a contract, like sign it. But then it's like these brands, it turned out like years and years later, I had signed away like my rights of usage for them to like use my face on their website or whatever it is. And it's like 5 years later, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something I posted like sophomore year of college. So I would definitely say looking and making sure you are okay with the terms and the rights, and not just looking at the dollar amount, because
Never sign a contract if there's words in perpetuity. Never, never, never. That means they can use you forever. Learned that the hard way.
Quincy wants to know, do you have any tips for inspiring creators?
Rip that Band-Aid off and go for it. And don't worry about being perfect at first. I don't think we're ever perfect.
I was gonna say,
just start
or never.
posting consistently. And what I will say is challenge yourself to speak to the camera, because that's what gets you community. Like, I don't think either of us could have built our platforms if we were just doing trending sounds only. Like, her getting in front of the camera and talking for 2 minutes while she did her makeup really builds that relationship. Like, you know her. So if you are gonna try to get into creation, like, rip that Band-Aid off and talk.
Yeah, I always suggest storytelling, because, you know, there's a lot of oversaturation online right now, and a lot of people are on there and wanting to do the same thing. So I would say leading with like your own personal stories, because that's something that people can't take away from you, and your own experiences, and like showing your personality, because that's what people will fall in love with or relate to or just laugh at or find comfort in. And being able to show that online is really, really important, and will help you stand out from the millions of people that are on there doing the same thing.
Emma wants to know, how do you deal with time management?
Well, how do I deal with time management? I have tried to be better with managing my time as I've taken on a few different projects and whatnot. I would say, one, it's really important to like stay organized. So like using the right tools to help you stay organized and stay on track, make a schedule. Like I have a whole master like Excel doc of like everywhere that I'm going to be, and brand posting or campaign or whatever it is, and like where I am in the world and what's going on these days, that just like I follow. It is like my Bible. So that helps me stay really organized. And I think I don't, the rest I'm sort of just like, yes, I will do everything and I will sleep later in life. I don't know. I say yes to everything.
Yeah, I would say if you have a really good team, they help too. Like they will remind you like, hey, you got to post this today. And you're like, right.
Emily wants to know, what's your advice for someone who is about to graduate?
Say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Because you'll never get to be back.
And I would say, don't be afraid of taking a small step if it's going to help you build, you know, in the future of your goal. Like, I think there's a lot, like, especially with jobs, like, you might get a role that it's like, oh my God, they're paying like dirt, but it's a career you really want to grow in. Don't be scared to maybe say yes to that opportunity and kind of trust the process of where it's going to take you. So don't be scared to take like a small step if it really feels like it's going to fulfill you in the long run.
This is our last Q&A question. It's from Taylor. If you hadn't have done social media, what would you be doing for a career?
Ooh, I always say I would be on like the exact opposite side of what I'm doing now. I think I would be working for a marketing creative agency, coming up with like brand campaign ideas. I think that's something that really excites me. Or working for a beauty brand on the marketing side. In an alternate universe, I would be working at Real Actives.
Yeah. I like sometimes really wish I was a hairdresser.
You know, I wanted to be a hairdresser at one point too.
Hey, like if one day things go downhill, you know, we can always start back up.
We can start a salon.
We can start. I'll do Alix's hair.
Perfect. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you all believe in yourself and know that you have the chance to get out there, create content, and do this for yourself. And with Windows, you know, you have the right tools to edit, create, and experiment all in one. And there is a really great offer right now for students and a whole package for you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming.